happy Friday. Thanks for tuning in to Radio Free Rhinecliff.org and this show in particular. Correct me if I'm Norm. I'm Norm, your host, here tonight with Jen Hammoud.
Hi, Norm.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
No, it's Jen Shear Hammoud, but Shear was your maiden name?
Correct.
And you're in the process of shedding the other surname, the married name?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm Jen Hammoud. I mean, even though my marriage is over, I don't know if I'm going to keep the Jen Hammoud.
Some people do, some people don't. I mean, your kids are named Hammoud.
True.
So that's something,
Yes,
an argument for keeping it.
Yeah.
But Shear's a nice name.
Thank you.
And what kind of name is Shear?
I am Russian/Ukrainian.
That's why I asked. Yeah.
And yes, my grandparents came over 100 years ago, and I learned that I grew up right outside of Kiev, but I was Russian and then later Ukrainian. So, not to start any geopolitical talk.
We're doing it right now in the Nook at the Epicurean. It's a huge geopolitical thing.
But different for Jews, because we all grew up in shtetls at that time, so we weren't really integrated into the Russian/Ukrainian society.
Okay, and what exactly is this shtetl? We didn't have them in Cincinnati where I grew up.
They're just little communities where Jews were separated from the rest of society.
So in Kiev, there was a Jewish quarter, so to speak.
Yes, quarter is probably a good word for it.
Well, I say that because in Paris, they have, you see signs. It's like, it's the Jewish quarter.
Yes. I mean, I would imagine it was more like a little lower class than that. But yes, quarter. They were isolated. And then there were these pogroms. And,
right.
Most Jews, as many as possible, fled.
Got the hell out of there.
So, yeah, I have no connection there anymore. But just interesting fun fact.
Have you ever been there?
No.
And when did you said you knew that you were Russian, but the Ukrainian thing was information that came to you later on?
Well, yeah, I guess my grandparents used it sort of interchangeably, that they were Russian, and then later on they said, but it was really Ukraine, and I don't know. So they left when they were young, and they were buried under haystacks as they were leaving the Cossacks, and, weren't big travelers after that excursion in their life, so... they were just really happy with their family and their hand laundromat business in Manhattan until they retired to Brighton Beach with all the other Russian/Russian Jews.
Oh, my God. I went to Brighton Beach last summer. I'd never been there.
Isn't it really off the hook?
It's crazy. Yeah. Now, I had lived in New York City for 22 years or something. I'd been all around the city. I don't think I'd ever felt as sort of as much imminent danger as from these Russian guys, these gangsters. I mean, they just looked so mean up and down the boardwalk there in Brighton Beach.
I mean, I think I used to go to visit my grandparents, I would say up until the 90s, and it was a very different scene. I think it's gotten a little more scary, as you're describing.
Yeah, scary.
When I was there, it was like big Russian women with pointy elbows, in line, trying to, stake out their claim in the supermarket.
Yeah. Well, I was there at nighttime.
But
I didn't see any big Russian women. The women looked like they were
custard, things like that.
Custard?
It's another word for soft ice cream. Custard.
Uh-huh.
My grandparents would take us to the boardwalk and get us knishes and custard.
And so they ran a hand laundry business in Manhattan.
Yes.
And they commuted from Brighton Beach, or they moved there later?
They moved there later. They had an apartment, I think in the East 70s.
Oh.
No. They had a bathtub in their kitchen.
Oh.
And they heated up the water, and that was the fancy Trachtman. That was my mother's side. The fancy Trachtman place.
And did they raise kids in that?
Yep, two daughters. My mom and her sister, I believe, were raised somewhere in the East 70s.
And the fridge, I had a friend who had a bathtub in his kitchen up on like 77th and York or something.
Okay.
And it was so peculiar. And he had the tiniest apartment I'd ever seen. It was a 1-bedroom and the big bathtub there. It's really something. And they had a couple of bedrooms, I'm guessing.
I assume. I don't know. I only knew the apartment in Brighton Beach, and it was this 1-bedroom apartment. And seltzer got delivered, and
sweet.
They had a living room, a kitchen. I mean, it was, and it was really interesting because at that time, their apartment would get broken into like regularly, but they were hard of hearing, so they couldn't hear it. The people would come in, take the VCR, leave very politely. So, yeah, good times.
Good times. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Spring Valley, New York, which is in Rockland County.
Right there near Nanuet.
Right near Nanuet. Yeah, actually right through the tunnel. Very good.
I only know, I think there's a road sign on the thruway. It says Spring Valley, Nanuet.
Oh, yes.
2 miles.
Yes, you're not really missing anything by not visiting Spring Valley, New York.
And were you born into Spring Valley?
I believe I was born in Manhattan. But I only knew Rockland County, and then my grandparents one set of grandparents lived in the Bronx, one lived in Brooklyn, and I had a really boring, normal childhood. I grew up in a ranch in Spring Valley, New York, and my parents were really crunchy. So they heated the house with a wood-burning stove, and we had 2 organic gardens. And
cool.
We belonged to a food co-op, and they were very, left-leaning, environmentally conscious.
I love that.
Carter-loving folks.
Carter-loving. Best ex-president ever. And did that must have influenced your politics, I'm guessing?
Yes. My parents were really involved in the community. They set an amazing example of giving back and being, very moral and right and wrong. They really felt it was more important for the greater good. And they're still like that.
Yeah, and where do they live now?
They live in Rockland County, but they moved on up to Pomona.
Oh, Pomona.
Yep. And right now they're in Florida.
Nice.
They go down like 6 weeks a year, and it's fabulous.
It's just spectacular. And the giving, one of the first things I knew about you when I met you or saw you around town or whatever was that you worked with the Rhinebeck Science Foundation.
Yes.
And you did that for a long time.
Yes, I did.
And do you have anything more to say about it?
Well, I have a lot to say about it. You're going to have to cut me off because I'll drone on and on.
Well, it's a beautiful organization. It exists to help teachers and help the kids. And what's their mission? So
the Rhinebeck Science Foundation was formed, I did it for about 15 years, and it was formed to give teachers the opportunity to do more. And initially, it was just STEM education, and then we added the A.
Thank you.
STEAM. You're welcome. And it was supposed to be, and was, a way to facilitate hands-on project-based learning and really focus on critical thinking skills. Right. And when I met with Joe Phelan, the former superintendent, one thing that was important to him was a gateway to technology lab and pre-engineering. But it was going to be impossible to do anything like that because to raise the funds for something like that in a very tight budget like Rhinebeck wasn't going to happen. So that's actually what hooked me in was collaborative learning, engineering, hands-on. And we were able to do that in the middle school. And then we started a lab or able to support a lab in the elementary school, Project Launch, and then through the high school. And we did big projects like that, and then, things that didn't cost a lot of money, like reaching out to the community and doing info chat, where high school seniors could meet with professionals in areas that they thought they might be interested in, or even areas that they might not be interested in, just because you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. So things like that.
that sounds wonderful. How did you get involved with the RSF?
Well, I started the foundation.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, well, that's a good way to get involved.
Julia Spiegel, who used to live here in Rhinecliff, it was her brainchild, and I met with the principal at the time, Dr. Sullivan of the elementary school, and he said, if you really want to help and you're really serious, there are over 5,000 education foundations in the United States, and they have access to funding and grants and community involvement that we don't as school districts. So I said, sure. I mean, as a speech pathologist, I know all about this. I knew nothing. I don't know anything about business plans or websites or... I had just moved to Rhinebeck a few years ago. I didn't really know anybody, but like, sure, I'll take this huge monumental task on. And I did.
Well, God bless you. Hats off to you.
Thank you.
And how long has it been around now?
It's a great question. I think about 17 years, maybe 18 years. Let's go with 17, maybe 18, something like that.
All right, now I'm just going to stop. I've got a tickle in my throat, okay. So maybe it's a good time to cut for the cocktail of the evening. What did you bring?
I brought my favorite drink in the whole world, which is just vodka.
Oh.
But I elevated it for this evening.
Thank you.
It's vodka, Ketel One vodka, not my, college pub club plastic bottle vodka. Ketel One vodka over ice with some lime for color.
Okay.
So I'll start pouring it now.
Great. Fabulous. It's not Russian vodka, is it?
No Russian.
Have you heard this? All these, liquor stores are pouring it out in the streets, and it's amazing. I hope these sanctions really do something.
Oh, I hope so too. It's devastating. It's devastating to watch.
Yeah, it really is. And so, did you grow up while you're putting ice in the glasses with your super adorable ice tongs?
It's taking much longer. Here, do you want some of the water?
No, thanks. Did you grow up sort of with any Ukrainian or Russian traditions in your house?
No, just the regular Jew thing.
The regular Jew thing.
And I guess we had borscht and kashavanchkas and. I don't think that that was just like Eastern European, Russian Jew thing. All right. Do you want some lime for color as well?
Whatever you're making, I'm happy to have it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, cheers. Thank you for being here.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I'm in this esteemed company of Steve Miller and John Halpern and Chantel Collins.
I can't even believe people come here and talk to me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
L'chaim.
So what do they say? They say skol? What do they say in Kyiv?
I don't know. I say l'chaim because, again, got to keep...
Maybe that's what they said in the shtetl there in
That's
Kyiv.
That's exactly what they said in the shtetl.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
And what is the literal translation of that?
To life.
That's a good one.
Fiddler on the Roof.
I know. I actually knew the answer to that. Fiddler on the Roof. And for some reason, I don't know, maybe a month ago, I went through a period of a couple of weeks where, and it happens every time somebody says, oh, well, it's a tradition.
Yes. You were singing.
I think of that song, Tradition. Which is, I must have seen that when I was 10.
Yes.
In a movie theater when it came out.
I saw it too in the movie theater.
And since then, I've only seen that clip really on YouTube.
Oh.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, I saw that
recently?
movie but Gabe, my older son, was the technical liaison for the Rhinebeck High School plays. And he was involved from 8th grade till senior year. And his last year, they did Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, nice.
So we watched a lot of clips. Fiddler on the Roof
to prepare for that. Now he was the tech guy there.
Yeah. Lighting, sound, and whatever else he needed to do.
And years ago, I needed somebody to do a tech thing for me. And I asked around, and you said, oh, maybe Gabe knows somebody. And he did know somebody. They couldn't do it or whatever. And then last spring, about a year ago,
yep.
And you and I were friendly, and
Sure.
You came over, sitting on the veranda, having a cup of coffee. And I said, well, I'm doing another monologue thing. I need somebody to run the tech part of it. And I thought maybe your kid would know somebody,
right?
As he had in the past. And you raised your hand. You said, "I'll do it." and it was just amazing because it was a monologue called "The Definition of Pornography." It was, it wasn't super explicit, but it was on a topic that some people are uncomfortable with. And you explained that since your separation,
yes,
since the end of your marriage, you were making a point to say yes to more things.
Yes, certainly.
Good answer. Good start to that answer.
As a small child, I never would have thought at 52 that I would be saying yes to run the slideshow for a porn monologue. And yet it was a fabulous experience. I learned so much. I loved working with you. I am not technically savvy at all. And
did great.
And it was fabulous.
Yeah. I loved having you help out and give your wonderful opinions and insights on it, because it was all a touchy thing that could have been one way or the other, and I've sort of found a middle ground, and I think you helped out on that a lot.
Thank you.
But what I'm really interested in is you saying yes. That's what you explained at the time. And what other things... Let me back up a bit, because you were married like 4 years ago or 5. I don't know when it all went to hell in a handbasket.
About 3 years ago.
But for that stretch of time, you had a vision of what your future was going to be.
True.
And then things changed. And you were working on finding a different future, and a future not being part of this like nuclear family and stuff. And from what I can tell, it's going great. But you're having adventures and saying yes to stuff. And so I'm leading the witness here. What are some of the other things you've said yes to that have surprised you? Like, wow, I can't believe I did that.
I've done some personal assistant work. I'm volunteering with the Radio Free Rhinecliff organization, and I helped organize a fundraiser with sponsorship, and we have a sold-out dinner to raise funds for licensing fees, maintenance equipment for this radio station. Yeah, that was kind of new. I was walking with Patricia Wynn, the owner of the Epicurean, and she was telling me that all of her college students were going back, and she didn't have anybody to work at the Epicurean. And I said, well, what do they do? And she described it, and I said, well, I could probably do everything except make coffee. I don't know how to make coffee. But I learned.
I was going to ask.
You push a button, and so I don't know. There were so many changes in my life, and then there was COVID, and it was very difficult to plan. I like to plan, and instead of doing that, I kind of just decided to be open to what came down the pike, and wherever that took me, I would just go with it, because I don't know. I had so many changes, and why not try new things? My kids are grown, and they're out of the house, and it's just me, and so I have a lot of flexibility. And if it doesn't work, I felt like the worst thing in my life that could have happened at that point, bar, terrible sickness.
Right.
That and I survived, and I've thrived, and so why not?
Right.
Why not just say yes?
And so you're still working here at the Epicurean?
Yes, for a full 9 hours a week.
That's nice.
I get a great discount.
Do you? Fabulous. Well, that must be kind of fun. I always thought I would like retail.
Okay, so I love this job so much. First of all, the people who are here, who come in, who are regulars, incredible. I'm meeting so many new people. I'm so happy. I kind of just like the interaction, and they have fabulous products here. I don't know if you've ever been to the Epicurean, but I'll just
go on. Plug the Epicurean.
Amazing. They work with over 100 different farmers, and so the cheese and the meat, and there's merguez sausage and goat milk and regular milk and different kinds of beer. I mean, just unbelievable. So come stop by. Oh, wonderful face creams.
That's great. Are you on the clock right now?
No.
But that's, it's wonderful you found a place that you respect.
Yes.
And you find interesting to spend all those 9 hours a week. And it's a couple of days, or it's one day, or?
So come visit me Wednesdays 1 to 6, or 3 to 6 on Thursdays. And then we have these wonderful happy hours. So Matt Rosenberg, who runs Radio Free Rhinecliff, has become a very dear friend, and I love the happy hours we have here that are just informal, just us sometimes after this program. And he's a fascinating cat.
Oh my God! Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Someone who makes gourmet cat food and can change locks.
Yeah.
And does IT work and can make a gourmet dinner for 250 people. I mean, who doesn't want him to be your best friend? I mean, I want him to be my best friend.
I do too. What do you say, Matt? I'll bring flowers next time. So the saying yes. So back to this.
Yes.
What were some of the other things you said yes to? And were there any regrets? Did you say yes to anything? You're like, oh, fuck, I really shouldn't have done that.
Well, it was COVID, so there wasn't a lot to say yes to.
Right.
I mean,
that's why I got lucky. And that's why you said yes to me. Now the truth comes out.
What did I say yes to? I don't know. I don't think there was a lot going. I don't know. I wish I had some more exciting things to report, but
yeah, well, me too.
I mean, like the porn thing, that was pretty exciting.
It was so much fun.
So that's probably my highlight of out of the Jen comfort zone things.
Right.
Porn.
Which is...
I had never seen it before. And then, do you remember? So we were working on it for I don't know how many months. And I keep telling everybody about it, and then you finally, have everything up in Saugerties at 11 Jane Street, and I wear glasses. So I had seen some of the pieces, but not with my glasses. And then the first day that we were having the monologue, I had my glasses on, and I was like, wow, this is so graphic.
I'm not sure I remember that.
I do.
That's hilarious. Well, I wish.
Yeah, now I think I'm turning red. Just remember.
That's good. Had I known, I would have encouraged you to rehearse with the glasses on.
That would have been helpful.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's nice. You were shocked.
Yep.
And you said at one point the speech pathologist.
Yes.
Was that a job you had at one point?
Yes. So I went to SUNY Binghamton, and my undergraduate work was in experimental psychology. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. And things just sort of fell into my lap. I did some research in psychoacoustics, and that was published, and I don't know.
Okay, wait a minute. What is psychoacoustics?
Oh, we're not even going to go there.
Yes, we are.
No. So I'm going to go into speech pathology. So then I said to myself, I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, I observed some different professionals. I kind of like the speech pathology thing. So I took a year off between undergrad and grad school because I applied for a scholarship through New York State, and I got it. And I went to Columbia for speech pathology. And then I had to give 3 years back. That was part of the state scholarship. And I worked at United Cerebral Palsy. And then after that, I worked at NYU Medical Center. And I loved it. I loved my job. I loved working with different ages. And the swallowing disorders really appealed to me because of my time at NYU was based really because of my time at United Cerebral Palsy, watching kids struggle with eating disorder, not eating disorders like that, but feeding and swallowing.
It's a swallowing disorder.
Yes.
Is that it's somebody who has difficulty swallowing, or
yes.
swallows all the time, or can't swallow at the right time, or all of the above?
So, for example, after a stroke, sometimes your muscles are weakened, and the food or liquid may go in the wrong direction and aspirate, and is a contributing factor to aspiration pneumonia, especially with older people.
Okay.
So something like that. Or it's because you have cerebral palsy and you have some sort of issue and your muscles don't work the right way, and that could be a reason why. Or I'm trying to think of...
Or ALS.
or ALS, right? Degenerative diseases. And sometimes with feeding, when with small children especially, there are sensory issues, and you don't necessarily have a swallowing disorder, but they're rejecting a bunch of different kinds of foods because of whatever, because it doesn't feel right. Or let's see, I had a client who had a esophageal atresia, so the esophagus was blind. It didn't meet the stomach, right? So if you swallow and there's no place for the food to go, it doesn't work. So the
sounds
child,
reasonable.
Right? So the child had to have, from the time she was born, a peg, a feeding tube in her stomach. So she wasn't, she rejected a lot of food once that was fixed, because it didn't feel right to her in her mouth. She was, so those are the kind of treatments that you have to do with somebody who has quote unquote swallowing disorders.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's not what I think of when I think of speech pathology.
Yeah.
I think of sort of
other things, articulation.
Yeah, the rain in Spain falls mainly in the plane, that kind of crap.
Well, that too. And disfluency if somebody stutters. And
right. Well, that must have been a pretty satisfying gig.
Amazing. Loved it.
Yeah.
I did. But then I had kids, and I moved up here, and I worked in New York City until Gabe was about three. Then I moved up here, and I was pregnant with my second, and I didn't have the greatest babysitters always in New York City, so I was a little anxious to come up someplace where I didn't know anybody and then have full-time childcare. So I decided to stay home. And then I stayed home indefinitely.
And why did y'all move up here?
My soon-to-be ex-husband decided to take a job up here as a cardiologist, and
okay.
it was we both agreed that we really didn't want a suburban life, and I didn't want my kids to grow up in New York City at that point. I wanted them to have I wanted them to go outside, play. I didn't have to worry about them in terms of. I just wanted them to have a different life, a little more freedom and flexibility, not as much scheduling. The suburbs seemed to be like a very intense place where everyone was like hyper scheduled, and up here it seemed a little, chiller, and I like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the kids seem like they've turned out okay.
Seems like.
What are they doing now?
They're like my biggest joy, and I'm so proud of both of them. And they teach me something every day. Clearly now that I'm old, I don't know anything. I'm not woke. I'm not politically correct.
Boy.
So they're really, really helpful that way. They're fabulous and smart, and I'm very, very grateful to have them as a huge part of my life. Gabe went to Georgetown and then graduated from Georgetown grad, and he works in he's an analyst who works in healthcare, and he's very, very happy working for the government.
Sounds like a stable job.
And his brother Jed is at American University, and he's very interested in data science, math. And it's great to watch him evolve and mature through taking classes like philosophy and, art. And, he took a gallery art writing class.
Oh, wow.
And I know. I'm so impressed.
So cool. Where is American University?
It's in D.C., so they're together.
Both...
they don't live together, but they get to see each other regularly.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And when they get back together, do they fall right into the old patterns? Was there much sibling rivalry amongst them?
There was a healthy hierarchy. They're about 4 years apart, and Gabe was the overlord, benevolent overlord.
A great job. I always wanted that job.
And his brother was a really he looked up to him, but now that they're this age, they're peers, and they can really get a lot from each other. And I'm thrilled that they see each other regularly. They have dinner, and beverages.
They get together.
Yeah, weekly.
In a different state where they both live.
Yes.
That's
like
huge
that's
success.
That's what I always wanted them to be close.
Yeah.
And if they have each other, and because no one understands how crazy your parents are.
No.
Like, you have to have a sibling for that.
No, I told my girls they're 2 years apart. When they were arguing, they must have been like 8 and 6 or something, or maybe like 7 and 5, or I don't know, 6 and 4, whatever. They were arguing. I said, listen, you guys need to get together. You need to take care of each other. You need to love each other. You need to be kind to each other. So because someday, like Mommy and I are going to be dead, and all there'll be is and they both burst out crying immediately.
Why?
And I told their mom, who's like, what the fuck is your problem? But it's a dream. And I was like, well, as I always say when people ask what's my problem, I'm like, well, how much time do you have? But it's a dream that your kids, for parents,
yes.
that your kids will have a relationship on their own that will be wonderful forever and ever. Because someday Mommy and Daddy will be dead.
Someday Mommy and Daddy will be dead. And again, nobody understands your dysfunction like your sibling.
Yeah.
Because no one would believe what you actually were raised with. Because everyone thinks that things are perfect, but everyone knows that there's weird stuff that happens in every household.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a big sister, and when I started therapy years ago,
yes.
It was great. I'm like, hey, Mare, what about this? Tell me about this. And she was the family historian. She had all this institutional memory, familiar memory, whatever. And it was super helpful.
Yep.
So, and did you have siblings?
So I have a brother. He's 5 years younger, and he's the best. I couldn't be luckier. He's amazing. He was working in Grand Cayman for 5 weeks, so I went to visit him. I know. His life sucks. Oh. Everyone wants to be Dave.
So nice. What does he do?
He also works. Well, he works in health benefits and health policy as well, but from a completely different angle. And he doesn't have kids, so he's got a more discretionary income because you know how that works.
Lousy kids.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm really lucky to have him. He was. He's always been. I think he's hilarious, and he's really smart. And he's 5 years younger. And I knew from I don't know, the time he was 2 or 3 that he was so much smarter than I am. He's just brilliant. And I was proud of him. No sibling rivalry.
That's great.
He's 5 years younger.
Yeah. Right?
So I could just sort of shepherd him, occasionally get him to do tasks, put my stuff in the laundry. I time him, come on, Dave, you can do better.
You can do better. That's hilarious. Did you ever get him to write papers for you or anything like that?
No, I mean, he's 5 years younger, so no. And I was fine with, I did fine academically, obviously, but not like him. He was valedictorian of our big high school.
Nice. In Spring Valley?
In Spring Valley. So we went to Ramapo High School. Perhaps you've heard of it from the This American Life episode, which is...
No, do tell.
So our district was very diverse.
That's great.
And I'm going to use the wrong...
Rhinebeck.
Exactly like Rhinebeck. So a lot of non-observant Jews, Filipinos, Haitians. Am I good? African Americans, Black Americans? I'm not sure what I should be saying about people.
Well, back then I think African American. Now it's blacks.
African, Black, and Italian, Irish. And
I think they're still called Italians and Irish.
They call that? Okay. Yeah. And then slowly but surely, people started selling their homes, and the people who were buying the homes were Orthodox Jews. And, so the school district shifted, and there was a white flight, and a lot of Browns left, and the people who took over the school board were Orthodox. And the money changed in terms of how it was funded into the school. So it became a very different place. So
wow.
So it's not the place that I grew up.
Orthodox or Hasids or Lubavitchers or
no, just Orthodox. And Orthodox,
okay.
You send your kids. Well, and there are probably some ultra Orthodox, but you send your kids to private school, and so it's just a very, very different world of public school, and that actually was happening around the same time as the Rhinebeck Science Foundation. And one of the reasons why we started the Rhinebeck Science Foundation is because I had such a positive experience with public school. I wanted my kids to stay in public school. I went to, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I went to a state university, and it afforded me the opportunity to do what I wanted to do, and I got a great education. So that was really important to me. And, it's hard to see what's happening in my old school district. So,
yeah, because the money's going to a local private school and it's not funneling into the public school.
Well, they're
as much.
separate. They have there's a whole separate funding for the Orthodox schools, and there's a whole separate funding for the non-Orthodox schools, which are the public schools. The other public schools.
But if you live there, you have to pay the school taxes regardless, right?
Regardless, yes.
Okay.
And so it's kind of, and it's not just there. There are some other places. And it's not just Jews, right? Like this happens in other places. It's just that this was where I grew up.
Right.
If you're religious and a bunch of people send their kids to parochial school, then you have who doesn't go to the schools.
And were you and your brother raised religious?
So we were raised, we were raised religious. My grandparents were Orthodox. My father is a atheist / agnostic, and my mother just wants everyone to be happy. Now, my mother is much more tied to religion. So we were both bar and bat mitzvahed, but we weren't kosher. My grandparents were. No, we were raised, but very culturally Jewish. We, Passover and Purim, Hanukkah, things like that. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all these holidays. My father, who's the atheist agnostic, became the treasurer of the temple. It's all cultural.
It's all sort of sweet.
It's sort of weird, but yes, and again, very normal.
And
crazy.
let me just go to this. You married a guy,
yes.
Not yet divorced, who was not Jewish.
Yep.
In fact, kind of...
he was an atheist Muslim.
Atheist Muslim.
Atheist Muslim Arab. It was so exactly what my parents wanted.
Yeah. All the Jewish parents want their beautiful daughter to grow up and marry an atheist Muslim.
But funny story, when I introduced him to my Orthodox grandmother, she was just happy that he was going to be a doctor.
Right. Well,
which is,
there's another cliche. Yeah. That's just great. And so did you raise your children with any religion?
They were raised, so I took it upon myself to raise them with the holidays that I celebrated. And I liked the Woodstock Temple at the time, so I brought them for Rosh Hashanah. I loved Rabbi Jonathan.
Jonathan's the bomb.
Right?
He's so good. Honestly, I've been there a bunch. And all the time I'm like, maybe I should be Jewish just to go there because I love the guy.
There's nothing better than to be in a tent with 1,000 people and singing and talking about just ways to reflect and how can you be a better person. And God is mentioned, of course, but
gorgeous.
It's not just about God. It's about, looking within yourself and trying to reflect on how you can do better in this world. And he just made me feel special. So my kids got, some of that. But it wasn't in a place like Rhinebeck where there aren't a lot of Jews, they knew that they were Jewish and they knew they were Muslim Arabs. But the Muslim Arab part was not mine, so it wasn't mine to nurture. So I don't know, I don't, obviously they didn't get the same amount since it was somebody else's responsibility. So. And
did their dad nurture that in them? Or his family?
So how they got that was through food.
Okay.
And so it was really so Jews and Arabs both push food. So that's without a doubt. And then his family are were fantastic cooks, and my kids loved Lebanese food. So I tried to learn how to do some of it, and I could do a couple things pretty well.
Yeah, which ones do you best?
Which ones? I can make a mean kofta, and
what is that exactly?
Oh, it's like lamb, like I'm trying to think, like lamb hamburgers, kind of.
Okay.
And it has spice and lamb and onions and parsley, and you put them on skewers and you grill it, and delicious.
Sounds yummy.
Yes. Fattoush, which is like a chopped salad, and I can make lamb curry, and I don't know what else can I make. Lentil soup.
And you
fabulous lentil soup.
I've had your lentil soup.
Yes,
it's delicious.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
And that's one of the things.
A derivative from my mother-in-law. I changed it a little bit. But
from your mother-in-law.
Yeah, they were really. I mean, so that was their. They lived like their cultural contribution. So the kids, really loved that side, and they loved their grandparents from that side.
Right.
Yeah.
Who lived when they were around, like 4 doors down from me.
Yes, they did. And if anybody who's listening ever walked down South Street, they were the ones saying, yalla, 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 la, 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 hey, you want coffee?
Yeah.
Come have coffee.
Yeah.
And you would go on their porch.
I was on that porch.
And they'd like sort of throw their garbage onto the, the lawn.
Well, now I never saw that.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
And just, they had, reclining chairs. It was like, kind of replicating, like, I guess, little Lebanon, and
right.
And they came here. They each had a middle school education, and I think they did the best they could. They raised 4 children here, and and food was their life.
Right.
And then
I love that, and coffee.
Food
really,
and coffee, very good coffee.
Yeah, a different kind of brew.
Yes.
But really nice. Watch out for that dog behind you. So what about your folks in food? Were there foods that they made when you think about growing up in that household? You think of particular foods?
Sure. So what I loved about my in-laws was like everything they made was the best. It was so good. They had amazing taste, and they could make anything taste fabulous. Like they could elevate anything. My mom made some dishes that I really liked. I make wonderful meatballs. They're her recipe. But food for them was like, food is living, like something for sustenance. And my in-laws' food was, they planned everything around that kind of day. Was, it had to be like the best lamb, the best this, the best that, but you couldn't overpay. It was sort of like the Price is Right game with them. And my parents, like, they cooked, and I ate, but my parents introduced me to all kinds of foods when I was younger, like Arabic food, for instance. On our way to Brighton Beach, if my brother and I were really quiet and good in the car and we didn't complain, then we'd stop at Atlantic Avenue and get our meat and spinach pies. And
that's great.
So we grew up with different things.
And so are there foods that your folks made for you that you made for your kids?
I guess just meatballs and chicken soup. I didn't do a lot of my parents' food. It wasn't like, no. My mom worked full time. She volunteered all the time. My dad, was... No, the minestrone soup just didn't do it for me. No.
And tell me again. Did you tell me what jobs did your parents have?
Both of my parents started off as teachers, and then my dad realized he didn't like kids. So as much as he loved the subject matter of social studies,
he loved his children.
His children.
Right.
That was it.
Just kids in general.
Right. But loved social studies and loved it. So to be in a classroom where high school students didn't appreciate the subject matter the way they should didn't work for him. So he became a substance abuse counselor for New York State.
Wow.
Yep. And my mom started off as a 3rd grade teacher, and then took some time off when I was really young. And then by the time she was ready to go back, there were no jobs left. So she worked in early childhood education, was a daycare center director, wrote grants. She ran a Rockland County Child and Referral Agency. She just always was very involved.
That's great.
And so knowing that, that they never really made any money. That they did good things.
Sadly, that's often the trade-off.
Happy with, relatively speaking.
And you seem to have really gotten that from your folks.
Yes.
You're civic-minded. You really like to help out and make a difference. What about the brother?
Oh, my brother? Oh, yeah. Habitats for Humanity. And he...
Oh, that's enough vodka for me. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's enough. Sure. I'm driving you home after this.
Okay.
It's delicious. Thank you so much.
The ice.
I don't need any ice. Cheers. Thanks again for being here and bringing this yummy vodka. This Ketel One.
Whose dog is this? There's like this stray dog in here who's so cute.
Oh, it's this fellow who just came in. Super nice guy. I forget his name.
Okay.
I know. I don't need to remember anybody's name because Matt remembers everything.
That's good. Well, that's why we keep him around.
And did you grow up with pets?
So, I hesitate to even say this. So, yes, I always had cats.
Why do you hesitate?
Because from the time, I know cats, from the time I loved cats apparently from the time I was a baby. And when I was 9 months old, my dad brought home a kitten for me, and he thought it was a stray, so he named the cat, because it was an alley cat, A-L-I. Allie.
Funny. I've heard that name somewhere before.
Yeah. And years later, my father said we should name the cat Shlomo.
Shlomo. So you would have married a nice Jewish doctor instead of a Lebanese Arab doctor.
Yeah. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Good one, Pop. And how often do you see your folks?
Regularly. Yeah.
That's great.
Very regularly.
And so it was a cat family? Did you always have cats? Do you have cats now?
Yes, so we were a complete cat family, and my parents are from New York, and from New York City. They didn't have pets. So at one point, I had Allie, and then I had a baby brother, and I wanted my own baby, so my parents got me another kitten. And then all of a sudden, there were 2 more cats. After those 2
How
cats,
does that happen?
Like 6 months later, apparently this happens, and my parents were like shocked. But so then there were 4, then we had to give them away, and then
there were 12, and then 48.
Well, actually, funny story. The cat.
Story. The parents didn't quite understand how the thing worked.
So then, then Fluffy, my kitten cat.
Fluffy. Oh, that's an original name.
Fluffy.
Did you name Fluffy?
That was my porn name.
Yeah. Wait, back it up. Is there a screeching brake sound effect? Fluffy was your porn name?
Well, remember we had to do porn names?
I do. So, I don't remember what yours was.
Fluffy Northbrook.
Fluffy Northbrook.
Yes.
That's really good.
Yes. So Fluffy kept mating, because that's what outdoor cats do. And I had to go to Grand Union or Wallbaum's in a shopping cart with all these kittens, and I couldn't come home until
they were all found homes.
Yeah, Caldors. Yeah.
Right.
I did. That's what I mean. My parents would drop us. I don't know.
How old were you when you were doing that?
Like 8.
When your folks sent you out.
I'm sure they were there watching.
Put somewhere. This gaggle of cats in a shopping cart and wheel it down to the.
And that was how my sales career started.
Sales career.
Just kidding. That's how I had to sell. I had to really sell at home that the people who would take these cats would be the happiest people in the world, right? Because we couldn't come home with any kittens.
You have a piece of cardboard with a snappy headline on it.
Probably. I don't remember. We had a box, and I had to get rid of all the kittens, politely, to good families.
Oh, yeah.
And I did this 3 times.
Did you grill them?
No.
What kind of family
8,
is it?
10.
What time do you go to bed? What do your parents do?
No.
Because this interview tonight is in case you want to adopt a cat. I need to make sure that you're suitable.
And now I have 2 more cats. And they were their mother died behind like, I don't know, like a Rite Aid in Port Ewan, and I adopted these 2 like sweet little kittens.
It's so funny. I just so don't imagine you at a Rite Aid in Port Ewan.
I don't know, maybe it's a Walgreens something. I don't know. And and they were like these teeny tiny little things, and now they're like 16 and 20 pounds.
So you said you have
overfeed them a little.
2 more cats. How many total?
Oh no, those are just the 2 cats I have now.
Oh, okay.
But through my life, I've always had cat, like for the most part.
And in college, did you have a cat?
No, I wasn't allowed to.
Grad school?
But my parents had cats. I forced them to continue that tradition.
You're going to have these pets while I can't.
Right. Yeah, always. Love, love, love. I don't know. It's weird. And at some point, like, I guess we had gerbils and cats. It didn't work out so well. Sometimes fish and cats. That didn't work out so well. The cats were always dominant.
So on a scale of 1...
I know. It was terrible.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like the closest and 10 being the furthest away, how close are you to being like crazy cat lady?
Oh, I thought that I would have like...
Sounds like... The face looks like 1 for anybody listening
I
at
thought
home.
it was going to be like a 1, like sign me up for 35 cats.
Yeah.
And then I had these 2 cats, and I was thinking, that wouldn't be nice. They wouldn't like to have all these brothers and sisters, so I didn't. But if I lived on a farm, hell yeah, I'd have like 70.
70 cats.
I love them so much.
Do you think you would be able to keep them all straight?
No.
No, it wouldn't
but they
matter.
would be feral, and I'd have no mice.
That's true.
Probably no snakes or frogs either, because my cats catch all sorts of weird stuff. No birds.
So are your cats indoor, outdoor cats?
Oh, yeah.
But they don't murder birds?
No.
Look at Matt leaning in.
Well, they have caught birds and they've brought them inside, but they don't. No, seriously, they don't murder them. They just because like in the morning, I remember. So I remember
berate them.
Gabe was getting ready for school, and all of a sudden I heard. And this bird flew out from under the couch because they brought in the bird, but they didn't kill it. It was just for sport. They're overfed. They don't need to eat they don't need to eat the things. They just need to catch them.
What did you say? They're 18 and 20 pounds?
Something like that.
And they're not Maine Coon cats.
No.
They're regular tabbies.
Tabbies. They're just, they beg. I don't know. How do you say no? They're our children.
How do you say no?
I can say
so
no to
sweet.
my kids, but not my cat.
No, please. You must have said no to your kids.
Yeah,
I can't
they'd be
imagine.
like 25 and 30 pounds if I didn't say no sometimes, but they're fat.
Right.
And loved. They're so loved and fat.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy you don't have cats number 3 through 27.
Next life.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Next incarnation. You never know.
Next incarnation.
Next year. You never know.
Well, speaking of which, what's next for you? I mean, you've started a new chapter of your life, and you've started, as far as I can tell, really well, and doing pretty good at it, and doing some fun things and stepping out of your comfort zone. What's next?
I really want to travel. That's something that I've always wanted to do, and
where's your brother going next?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hop on wherever he goes.
Yeah.
And I like cities. And I haven't been to too many places, so that's something that's really high on my priority list. And I like Rhinecliff, and I want to continue to figure out how to support the radio station, and Matt and I actually are meeting about the 501c3 and getting things done here, and I'm not really sure. Things seem to fall into my lap, and I'll figure it out, I think, as they do.
Best.
Maybe we can take the porn show on the road. That's my dream.
It'd be so good.
I really think we should.
It was a fun thing.
It was very well received, and I mean, now that COVID's kind of in the rearview mirror, I don't see why we can't do that.
I know. I'm a little freaked out that COVID's in the rearview mirror.
Right? It's weird to go to the movies
everywhere.
again.
For the moment, But
so we should hop on that soon.
Let's go. Well, I'm doing a thing next Saturday,
That's
a
right.
little reading kind of thing.
That's right.
So I hope
you should.
March 12th. You should come
in Newburgh?
Yeah. In Newburgh. All the info's on my Facebook page and stuff.
It's great.
Yeah, 6 p.m.
I would love to come, but
with
we have a fundraiser here.
With the amazing Peter Dugan.
Oh.
Who's playing guitar. Because I practiced these things one time with you. I printed out a bunch, I read them, like 4 or 5 in a row.
Yes.
And you're like, not in so many
I thought they
words.
Just a little edit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And so, which you're super good at. And so I thought, I'll read one. It's like 3 or 4 minutes long, and then we'll have a musical interlude, and then I'll read another.
That's perfect.
So
because you need to, keep people's attention span. People have shorter attention spans now because of all this social media nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do.
I like the music.
Yeah, it should be good. He's amazing. He's an amazing guy. He played this John Cage concert last August 29th.
Excellent.
Super amazing guy. Well, what else do you do creatively? Because you're a creative thinker and a go-getter. Nice face.
I don't think I'm creative. I mean, I like to cook.
But you are.
Bake, but I don't think I am. And so I do things like, I think I'm kind of like boring. I don't really do creative stuff. I exercise, I walk, I see my friends, I host dinner parties. I get like slightly obsessed with things like, okay, dumplings, right? I go through a dumpling phase. How do I make the best dumplings? So I try different fillings. I try different wrapper. I make wrappers from scratch.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Right? You remember that phase.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So, so I don't think that's creative. I think that's like slightly
what do you mean?
Compulsive.
It's totally creative.
All right.
You're trying a bunch of different things to get it exactly how you want.
Yeah.
That's what painters do and sculptors and monologists and...
So, but I'm not. Yeah, no. I wish that I had that. Like when I walk into your home and I see all your beautiful, different kinds of creations, yeah, I'm jealous. I don't have that
that's
kind
funny.
of brain.
Well, I've got you've got a bigger home, a small house. It's concentrated. There's crap everywhere.
Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is that you're a brilliant artist and you have lots of different things that you're good at in terms of, how you channel that art. And mine's just, I'm more like a doer.
Well,
I'm like a busy doer.
Well, that's what most creative people are. Otherwise, you're just a slacker. If you're creative and you're not doing, then what's the point?
I guess my creativity is more towards like tangible goals, like, oh, wow, we need to raise money for Radio Free Rhinecliff, so this is how we're going to do it. Let's brainstorm. Let's come up with like a creative menu. Let's come up with sponsorship. I think that's kind of where I think it's more... I don't know.
And I
don't know what that is.
You
That's
did stuff like this for the Rhinebeck Science Foundation for years and years and years.
Yes,
they had an annual gala. And now you're kind of doing that for Radio Free Rhinecliff. And what's the event? For the people who are coming to the event next Saturday, what's going to happen?
So what's going to happen is we're going to have a 7-course tasting. And Matt, Patricia, and I are doing all the cooking. And we're showcasing the local food from farms from in the Hudson Valley.
Right.
And it's going to be 2 hours, and the funds that we raise from that will go towards everything that we need here to continue, because we have, it's a radio station, so we have monthly needs, and
and what are the monthly needs,
Matt?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Matt.
Fees and equipment and
streaming costs and licensing stuff.
Yeah.
And right.
And we want to support. So what attracted me to this radio station was you had all these local talent, right? You and Allison and Bill Parker. You have these different kind of shows, from national security to, interviewing people about different topics from a social worker point of view. You have kids doing K-pop.
Right.
And,
which is so cool.
Right. And so it gives, and everybody's listening to podcasts. I mean, more so, especially, I think, during the pandemic. So this radio station could be, there's something in Kingston, right? There's a local radio station where they have music rights. We don't have that now, but it could be something like that. And I like connecting our local talent to the greater world, right. and we have a lot to showcase here.
But also, I mean, for me anyway, our local talent, you tonight.
I mean, this feels like I feel ridiculous being here.
To our local world. Which is, well, that's sweet. You say that. Because, I mean, seriously, the people who are like, oh, I'm so interesting, are usually a little bit boorish. And the people who are like, oh, I don't know why you're talking to me, often are the most delightful and surprising. And that's exactly what you've been. Delightful and surprising, and thanks for bringing the yummy vodka. And we are, as often happens, out of time. Look at her; she's like making thank God. God.
You don't have to ask me any of the other questions that were on your list.
Oh, just ask this one: do you now, or have you ever had a safe word?
I do not, and I have not. But thank you. And on that note,
but you know what it is.
I do know what it is.
All right, thanks for tuning
in.
Because
of the porn monologue.
Oh no, that's not why. Nice try, Jen Hammoud. Fluffy Northbrook. All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
That's what I want to be called from now on.
Have a fabulous Friday evening. And that's it.
Thanks,
Jen.